Welcome back. The Bald and the Beautiful, 10 to B, along with Max Fuller. New segment, Max, that we preview the weekend a little bit for ourselves. What are you blanking this weekend? Don't take that the wrong way. Get your gutter out of your mind. Get your mind out of the gutter. What are you blanking this weekend? The first blank, doing. What are you doing this weekend? I'm going to start.
Go for it.
My daughter is going to a birthday party tomorrow. She's going to a cousin's birthday party. So I've got the two boys to myself tomorrow morning.
Heck yeah.
And basically for the last couple months, and we just never got to it because, basically hockey season, you're doing something every day.
Right.
And then we had spring break vacation. So we haven't had time to go to it yet, but Samson, my 9-year-old, has been begging me to go see the GOAT movie.
Yeah.
The animated GOAT movie. Now, I heard you watched it, so can you give me a little preview of what I'm in for tomorrow?
It's a great movie, and the animation is a little strange at first because I feel like there's animation for kids movies has become so homogenous. They all kind of look exactly the same, so it's a little bit strange, but it is really cool to look at. It's creative, and it's basically just it's almost like Zootopia with basketball. It's like a story that is about kind of like inclusion and not doubting yourselves and not judging books by the cover. And it's got a bunch of voices that you'll recognize. Steph Curry is one of the voices in the...
Angel Reese is in it, too?
Yeah, Angel Reese is in it. They got
Gabrielle Union.
Gabrielle Union. I'm never mad to see Gabrielle Union on my screen in any way,
Lowercase
shape, or form. And so it's a really good, heartfelt movie. A lot of these kids' movies, sometimes, and they're not made for us. They're not made for our entertainment as well, but some of them, they can be...
Oh, I'm entertained by a good chunk of them.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
all I watch now. I don't watch adult movies anymore.
Yeah. When you have,
that came out the wrong way, too. That came out the wrong way.
I mean, hey, speak for yourself, brother. Sometimes you got to go to that incognito window. But some of these kids' movies are a chore to get through, a slog. But this is not that.
Did you watch Zootopia too?
I did.
That's great.
I thought it was amazing.
That's hard to match. Whenever you have the sequels, because the first one was pretty good.
Yeah.
And the second one's kind of similar in messaging and stuff, but the second one was really good, too.
I thought the second one's just as good as the first. Me and my daughter actually ended up watching them back to back. The first time I saw Zootopia was actually in a college course.
Really?
Yeah, they had us breaking down the themes of Zootopia. I swear it was a real college course, not like it wasn't like remedial.
Like made up credits that like the athletes get to go to that course to make sure they're passing. And then I think you said recently you were going to go to see Hoppers.
Yes.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, we did.
Was that good?
We did go see Hoppers. Yeah, it was good. It was hard to, my daughter's a teenager now, so it's a lot less. That movie was great, Dad. It was awesome. Sure. And big smile after the movie. I was just like, what'd you think of the movie? Good. All right, cool. So I'm lucky to get more than three words out of her, but I ended up liking it. It's kind of like Avatar, but with animals. People transporting their brains into the minds of animals and getting to know the animals and stuff like that. So I thought it was a really good movie.
Okay. My kids don't care about the movie. They just want their free candy.
Yeah.
We kind of have the candy locked down a little bit at home. Mm-hmm. So when they'll go to any movie because they know they're getting candy and a big blue icy too.
My daughter, she's such a goody two-shoes, so she gets a kick out of little small mischievous things, and she loves sneaking outside food into the movie theater. That's like her favorite thing. Yeah. Like she gets such a rush from it, like a kleptomaniac or something. Like she's just like, yeah, let's get Chipotle. Let's sneak in Blizzards next time.
Part of a bank heist next time.
Yeah, she probably
when she's an adult. What are you doing this weekend?
Tennessee, I'm despite my radio persona, I'm a guy that really values peace and quiet. This is all just a bit, This is just a character. I'm not this extroverted guy. I'm more monk-like when I'm off the radio. And as a parent, peace and quiet, it's a premium. It's rarer than diamonds. And I'm an avid library goer. I could go to the library, but that gets pretty crowded on the weekends. It gets pretty busy. So where is somewhere I could go completely peaceful, quiet, nobody around?
Please tell me there's a Target Field joke.
I'm going to go to the Twins game this weekend. There'll be nobody there to bother me. And apparently I'll also have maybe it'll even be a darkness retreat because we're getting reports out of Target Field right now that the power is out.
They had a power outage
at Target Field right now.
Since we talked, have we heard if they got the power back yet?
I have not heard that if they've got the power back yet, but everybody that's there, all our reporter friends are saying that the power is out. And,
the whole stadium lost power, and apparently some nearby buildings in the neighborhood lost power.
Glad to see that Target Field is run like my apartment building.
I haven't seen any posts yet on X that it's come back. I was waiting for the cliche, the lineup doesn't have any power. But I thought Meat Sauce had the best joke. On X, he wrote, Did the poll ads not pay the bill?
Which is brilliant.
Jesus. What are you watching this weekend? You know, from a sports standpoint, I don't really have anything on like Netflix that I'm like set to be watching at this point. Sports wise, obviously got the Final Four games tomorrow night. I'll probably tune into those. I watch every Wild game, and I guess what's unique about those this weekend is they play Ottawa tomorrow at noon. They play Detroit Sunday at noon. And those two teams are among basically 3 or 4 teams in the East that are battling for the last playoff spot. Right now, Ottawa and Detroit are both tied for the last playoff spot with 88 points, and they both have 7 games remaining. So the Wild are going to have a little bit of an input on what happens for that final playoff spot in the East. So that's what I'm going to be watching. What are you going to be watching?
That's exciting. Play a little spoiler. You know, I have a million things on my watch list. I always do. But, you know, for the last year, I've been working 60 hours a week, 6 to 7 days a week. So I haven't got a chance to watch all the things that I want to watch. But one thing that I have been tuned into the first couple episodes of at the behest of one Corey Cove is this Born to Bowl documentary.
Born to Bowl?
It's on.
Where can I find that?
It's on HBO Max. It's basically Hard Knocks, but with professional bowlers. Even down to Liev Schreiber is the narrator of the entire documentary, the same guy that does it for Hard Knocks. And it's a peek into the lives of professional bowling, which spoiler alert is less than glamorous.
I was gonna say, should I have any interest in this?
You would think not. And the first episode is kind of just your standard sports documentary, but the second episode, these guys hate each other's guts. Like, people that think sports these days are too buddy-buddy, boy, do I have a sport for you. It is professional bowling.
If you like Bud Grant, you'll like professional bowling.
Love professional bowling. If you like the Malice at the Palace, you'll like professional
Do they have
bowling.
Jersey chasers? That's what I want to know.
I haven't gotten to that part
they
yet.
haven't seen any,
but
none of that. Okay.
I bet they do. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Some gutter gals waiting at the...
Literally in the gutter.
In more ways than one.
Rock bottom.
But it's a fantastic documentary so far, and these guys really because you know there's not all this cash flowing around. It's not like the MLB, the NBA, the NFL, or the NHL at this point where everybody's getting paid, everybody's got millions. No, only the winners get paid essentially. So you have to go through these grueling tournaments.
That's great.
For days and days and days, and only the winner comes out with a little bit of cash. So as you can tell, I mean, it's not just the sense of competition. It's a survival instinct, you know, like you're trying to feed your family against these guys. So it gets pretty fiery. It's been a real.
That's what I love about golf to a certain extent. You have to earn your way onto the tour,
right.
And then a lot of these guys are struggling even just to survive, and just like even taking like 10th place on the final day of that final putt to get him into 10th, and the amount of money it makes for him could
change your life.
Could be pretty cool. All right, this is our final question for what are you blanking this weekend? And for the final one, we're going to do what are you dreading this weekend? I don't have a lot to dread this weekend. I don't have a lot of negativity to bring, but I will say Easter's on Sunday. Yeah. And what I'm dreading is when you do the Easter egg hunt and older brother because he's 11 and middle child because he's 9 come back with more eggs when they're doing the Easter egg hunt.
Yeah.
And they are loaded up with like 30 eggs.
Right.
And then my 6-year-old daughter comes back with 6, and then the meltdown ensues. I am dreading the Easter egg hunt meltdown that is coming. And I know it's coming.
It's bound to happen.
Yes, it's going to happen. What are you dreading this weekend?
Especially with your siblings, you're not going to think about, I should leave a few. You're trying to run up that number.
Oh, you're trying to run up score.
Yeah, one of your boys would get all the eggs if they could. Yeah,
they're both reaching for the egg at the same time, boxing each other out.
There's going to be some hands that are thrown.
Yeah.
One of mine is once the weather gets good, the crazy people on my street tend to come out. I live in a very eccentric
you
part
live online?
of Minneapolis.
Oh.
Yeah, I live on social media. But basically, once the nice weather comes, the crazy people start to thaw out a little bit. And they like to hang out on my street a lot.
It's not going to be nice this weekend, though.
I know, but even the sun, even anything above freezing, they're outside on the streets. They're having full concerts. I mean, not just... There was a guy the other day who was doing a full... It's not even beatboxing. He was making like a beat off of his knees, and he was singing a song. And that'd be whatever. It's 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. I live downtown. Listen, do your thing, baby. But he had a whole set list. It wasn't just one song. It was one song, flowed into the next song, flowed into the next song, and it probably lasted for about 30 minutes before I was like, why, man? And he's like, yeah, you're right. I'm sorry, Ben. I'm sorry.
You got a free concert.
I know. At 4 in the morning on the weekend. So I'm dreading that.
That reminds me of the movie Coming to America.
Yeah.
when Eddie Murphy is like, to be loved. And he's just screaming.
Right.
The guy's like, F you. It's like, yes, F you too. He just doesn't know what it means.
Such a great scene.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
Yeah, speaking of watching things.
My favorite is the halftime of the basketball.
Oh, yeah.
What is my favorite part of the game?
Did you know that he was all the people in the barbershop
Yes,
in that movie?
I did.
I did not know that until
except
recently.
for one. I think Arsenio was one, wasn't he?
No, I think he was
all of them?
I think he was every single person.
Okay, I thought Arsenio was one.
There was a really good documentary about Eddie Murphy that's on Netflix.
I think you were about to say something else you dread.
Oh,
you had multiple things you're dreading this weekend.
I know. When you first asked me that, I was like, dread? I don't know if I'm dreading anything. But then I found out, I guess I am.
Let me bring the negativity out of you, Max.
Yeah.
You're always just a sparkle ray of sunshine. You're like unicorns and rainbows. Let me bring out the negativity out of you.
I know. It's like the evil emperor from the Star Wars. Just good. But I'm dreading a little bit. I've been getting back into online gaming, playing like, NBA 2K or something like that online. Yeah. I'm dreading these teenagers, man. I think I lost my touch. I don't have the same reaction speed as I used to. And it's like Harvey Dent said in The Dark Knight. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. But I'm kind of on the other end. I've lived long enough to see myself become the victim. Because I remember being the young guy being like, yeah, you trash. Log off, bro. You just talking mad crap to every single person that I'm playing. And now that's me. I'm on the
Father
other
time
end.
Is undefeated.
It really is. I'm the unk on the other line. Like, hey, man, I just got off a long day of work. I was just trying to have fun. And there's some kid just 360 windmill dunking on me, sending me voice notes, taunting me. So I'm dreading just getting my butt whooped in those games again.
I feel the same way about old men hockey. I'm playing a lot of beer league hockey with kids that are much younger than me. Right? They're literally in college, out of college. I've lost a step a little bit. I don't have the same explosiveness as I once did. But I also, I'm going to hang on to this as long as I can.
100%.
Because if I take 6 months off,
it's over.
I will never have a shot at even being in the same rink as these kids. So I'm forcing myself. I'm going to keep playing as long as I can, and I know it's coming to an end soon. But
it's humbling.
It is very humbling. That's it for What Are You Blanking this weekend. Up next on the other side of this break, Max, I might do a little blind rank with you. We'll see how that goes. We'll do that. And then we're going to talk with Michael Russo at 2:30 right here on The Fitz. To be along with Max Fuller. We'll be talking Minnesota Wild hockey with Michael Russo in about 10-15 minutes. But
it's now time for Blind Rank.
Max, you know how Blind Rank works?
Yes, sir.
You've seen it all over social media, right?
It's everywhere.
I'll give you a category with 10 different options. You got to rank them 1 through 10, but you don't know what's coming up next.
All right, cool.
Though I think this one might be a little bit more obvious than most, but we're going to have number 1 be the best, 10 be the worst in this spot, okay? Blind rank, Max, teams that could win the NBA championship.
Ooh, okay.
Let's begin with Bodega Cat and the New York Knicks.
They just don't have enough depth for me. They haven't really changed too much from the last couple years where they ran into the same problems in the playoffs. Plus, it's a Tibbs-led team, so it's going to fall apart at any point. Well, wait, no, Tibbs isn't the head coach anymore, is he? I'm not sure. I'm going to put him at 7.
7 for the New York Knicks.
Yeah, Eastern Conference not too strong.
Well, this might have changed after last night, but how about the Los Angeles Lakers?
Ooh, yeah. If Luka can't go, then this team shouldn't even be in the top 10. But if I'm assuming that Luka Doncic is all good, he's A-okay, I would say...
He doesn't, run anyways.
Yeah, he doesn't...
he just needs to post up at the three-point line and do a couple shimmies, and he can do that with a bum hamstring.
Right. It's not predicated on athleticism.
He can still flop regardless of the hamstring, right?
100%. I'm going to say 4. I'm going to put him at 4.
LA Lakers at 4. I almost reposted it last night, but I was like, I knew I'd make the basketball community too mad, and the comments, it just wasn't worth it. but there's video of Matt Zuccarello of the Wild and somebody else. They're like playing basketball, like in the lower levels of Grand Casino Arena, right? Before the game, right? They're doing like basketball for a warm up. And Matt Zuccarello's on offense. He does like the slow motion where he intentionally runs into the guy and then flops his arms back. And it was caught on camera. I'm like, that is just genius.
That's amazing.
Loved it. All right, you got the two big the big city teams, the LA Lakers at 4 and the Knicks at 7. How about the Boston Celtics? Where are you ranking them?
Ooh, man. Right now, because Cade Cunningham is not in the lineup for the Detroit Pistons right now with the collapsed lung. We don't know.
That sounds painful, by the way.
Yeah, it sounds just absolutely awful. I can't even imagine what he's going through in the recovery process right now. If we're to believe Mark Rosen, he'll be back sooner rather than later, but I haven't seen any official reports stating that, and I would imagine a collapsed lung takes a little bit to recover from.
Rosen will be on top of it.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm going to say the Boston Celtics, man, I got to give them third because if there's no Cade Cunningham, I think the Boston Celtics walk to the NBA Finals.
All right, you got Celtics at 3, Lakers at 4, Knicks at 7. How about the Denver Nuggets?
Ooh, man. I'll go 6 on the Denver Nuggets. They obviously have Nikola Jokic, who, according to Dane Moore and a lot of people, is the MVP, could be the MVP of the league. He's, there's no argument that he's one of the best players of all time. And when he's playing at his peak powers, it's not like other teams where if their best player is playing their best, that Luka's best doesn't necessarily mean that it's the team's best. You know what I'm saying? He might go out there and score 50, 60 points and then nobody else scores, like we saw when the Mavericks made it to the finals. But Nikola Jokic at his peak powers means the entire team is playing at their peak powers because he kind of activates the rest of that team, but they don't have the same depth that they've had in years past. This is a team that took the Oklahoma City Thunder to 7 last year, but again, they don't have that same firepower, so I'm going to put them at 6.
By the way, I just saw Labelli kneel to it. I just thought the power outage would be like a 5-minute thing and then be back on. He says Twins announced that pregame ceremonies will be delayed while XL Energy works on getting the power back on. What if the game doesn't start on time?
I mean, this is just too good. You couldn't script a bit better than this.
The power went out at 1:51, so we're now at 32 minutes of not having power. Which also means like the heaters aren't working there.
No, and it's a cold day out there.
They're trying to sell concessions.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Man, all the warm beer. That $2 beer is about to be 2-cent beer in a second here. Oh. Target Field, once again, is managed the same way my apartment building is managed.
All right, got Celtics at 3, Lakers at 4, Nuggets at 6, and Knicks at 7. How about... You've been talking very highly about them today, the Detroit Pistons.
I'm gonna put the Detroit Pistons at 5. I would put them higher, but I'm gonna put them at 5 just because Cade Cunningham is such a question mark. They are obviously clearly a really good team. They just beat the Timberwolves twice without Cade Cunningham. And they've been faring fairly well and pretty much have been in the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference since the season started. They're a complete team and they play a completely different brand of basketball than the rest of the league right now. If Cade Cunningham was healthy, I can say pretty confidently I'd put them at number 2. I would put them up there with the best of the best, but they don't have Cade Cunningham, and it's a question mark. But they're still a damn good team. I think they can still make some noise in the playoffs. So I'm going to go 5.
So all you have left now is 1, 2, 8, 9, 10. You're really keeping the outer edges open here.
Yeah.
OKC Thunder.
It's got to be number 1.
You got them as your number 1?
As much as I hate to say it, it's got to be number 1. I mean,
I just don't like SGA.
I don't like him either.
I don't like the way he plays.
He's one of the least likable. Like, Luka at least is... I can appreciate his value as a villain in the NBA storyline. You know what I'm saying? Like
he at least has like a little personality to him.
Right. Like he antagonizes
They both flop
the crowd.
like crazy, though, and SGA's is worse.
Yeah, it's way worse. And the thing about SGA, like, we hate Luka for complaining. SGA doesn't have to complain because he gets every single call, even the ones he's not going for. But this team, I mean, man, what more can you say about him? Everything that's already been...
There's nothing I hate worse than when a guy's driving the lane and the defender's just standing there, and then the offensive player will intentionally put a shoulder into him, and they call it every time. It's
every single time. It's
why
ridiculous
for this.
Michael B. Jordan's lucky that SGA didn't win the Oscar this year. He should be a multiple-time Oscar winner. But yeah, this team, they're such a complete team, and they do all of the little things right. So you have to play a perfect game for 4 straight games, essentially, to beat this team. And it's hard to see any team beating this team in a 7-game series.
All right, you have 2, 8, 9, 10 remaining. I'm going to go with the San Antonio Spurs.
I mean, this just kind of makes the end of the list more predictable, but I gotta put them at number 2.
Oh no,
they're the team that has been giving the Oklahoma City Thunder hell all season long. I think they've beaten them at 4 out of their 5 matchups, 3 out of their 4 matchups, something like that. They've had OKC's number. We know that the regular season doesn't really mean anything. The Phoenix Suns were undefeated against the Wolves a couple years ago, and the Wolves swept them in the first round of the playoffs. It doesn't really mean anything, but these two teams clearly match up very well. It all comes down to the last second, essentially, and these guys don't like each other. Like, Victor Wembanyama does not like SGA or his brand of basketball.
I'm on Team Victor.
Me too.
Team Wemby.
Me too. And I was a Wemby denier, a Wemby hater out of the gate, but man, I mean, it's basically his league. Yeah, as long as he can.
And I
stay
love
healthy.
that he's going after them.
Me too.
Right,
and
calling them out for getting all the calls.
He's kind of doing that with other teams too. He's just changing the culture. Guys want to play their best when they're playing against Victor Wembanyama. We saw Ant a couple months ago say basically, I wish we could just clear out the court and it could be me and him one-on-one. He's bringing out that kind of competitive spirit in a lot of different players in the NBA, and you just got to love it as a fan of the game.
All right, lightning round here. We need to go quick. Yeah. Houston Rockets. So you have 8, 9, 10 remaining.
Okay.
Durantula, Houston.
I'm going to say, I'll say 10, or I'll say 9. I'll say 9 just because they do have Durant, and they got a pretty good defensive unit.
So you have 8 and 10 remaining. Minnesota Timberwolves.
Oh, man.
I can't believe you put them that low, Max.
I know. I didn't mean to put them that low, but I guess they got to go 8. I'll put them as high as I can put them.
Put them lower than Karl Anthony Towns? What are you doing?
I was a little too friendly to the Knicks off the rip. They should be a little bit higher on my list, but it's the blind rank for a reason. The Timberwolves. This is a Timberwolves team that I could just as easily see them getting bounced in the first round or going and winning the whole thing.
And then you now have the Cleveland Cavaliers at number 10. So
they should be
Thunder, Spurs, Celtics, Lakers, Pistons, Nuggets, Knicks, Timberwolves, Rockets, Cavaliers. Pretty close to what you would have gone?
Yeah, Cavaliers would have been number 10 regardless, even if they weren't the last one, for sure.
All right, we're talking hockey with Michael Russo of The Athletic. He'll break down Minnesota Wild hockey for us next right here on The Fitz.
Wolves.
Final segment of the 10 of Fitzgerald. Max Fuller with me as well. Pleased to be joined by Michael Russo, who covers the Minnesota Wild for The Athletic. Hello, Michael. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Are you heading to Ottawa this weekend or in Detroit?
No,
and you staying home?
On his way there now. So
okay. Well, my first random question for you, because right now at Target Field, their pregame ceremonies are all being delayed because they have a power outage. It's been over 40 minutes now, and they haven't fixed it. In your history of covering the great game of hockey, what has been like the craziest delay or pause in the middle of a game type of story? I'm sure you've had to have had some sort of weird moment in that regards throughout your career covering hockey.
Yeah. What is going on then in the city? Because I just lost my power here at my house. And I don't live anywhere near Target Field. So, yeah, I don't know. It's a good thing you guys called me because I wouldn't be able to get on the Wi-Fi. Delays. I was in Pensacola once covering an exhibition game, and the ice was garbage, and they had to delay it a couple times. The most have been injury related. I talked to Cam. I was talking to Cam Stewart the other day, and we were talking about a time I was covering him in Ottawa, coincidentally, and he got elbowed in the head by Kevin Dineen and was out before he hit the ice. That stopped the game for a long time. Same thing in Montreal once. Scott Mellody went head first in the boards. Obviously, Curtis Foster in San Jose. Mostly glass. I don't remember any power outages. We've had fire alarms go off in the middle of games, even at Grand Casino Arena. That happened 4 or 5 years ago. I remember. So stuff like that, but nothing like this that delayed a game because of a power outage.
I think we had a power outage during the high school state tournament for this year for Grand Casino Arena. I think they did for a little bit, where they had to stop the game because the lights went out, but it came back rather quickly. Before we talked about meaningless stuff like the Minnesota Wild, I know you had made an effort to have some pins made for Jesse Pierce, who I think people know by now, tragically died along with her 3 children in a house fire a couple weeks ago. I know you went to the visitation. You had some stuff done with last night, and they had a little tribute tour at the game. Where are you at in the processing of this? Because it still just doesn't seem real to me.
Yeah, no, it really doesn't. I was telling somebody that today that it still doesn't feel real, and it's not getting any easier. And last night was obviously tough, and surreal, and just the fact that life goes on. I love the stuff that the Wild did, and some of her friends in the press box did at her seat yesterday. It was such a great touch, by Judd Zulgad and those guys over at Score North, putting the blankets on her seat, and somebody put a hot dog there because she between periods would go down to the NHL alumni room and always get a hot dog, and so somebody put a hot dog there.
Yeah.
I thought it was amazing how the Wild's game night staff, delivered the pregame lineup to her seat, put the game sheets between periods and postgame at her seat, and I think that's the biggest thing that we're working with the Wild on coming up with ideas. And I know they've talked with Mike, her husband, and the father of those three beautiful kids about stuff that they could do, and they'll do stuff in time. But we're spitballing different ideas with the Wild, and they'll take the lead on that. But the one thing that we want to continue to do, and not just now, but well into the future, is just always make sure that her presence is felt both at Tria Rink and at Grand Casino Arena. And so these pins were the least that we could do. Sarah McClellan and I came up with the idea. Sarah's sister actually designed them, and we found a company that really fast-tracked it to my house. In fact, I'm ordering another 100 today because so many people, colleagues and friends of hers around the league. I'd love to get it to the family as well. So I'm buying another 100 today, but I'm about to head out to the post office and mail a bunch to some people that really want them, a dozen to NHL.com who really want them. And, so that's, and I'm really glad that these pins also, signify the three children and have their names on it as well.
I know the impact she had on me. I had an idea of the influence she had on this market. I was blown away by just the outpouring of support for her, not only locally, but nationally. You have, NHL coaches, Andrew Burnett in Nashville, Dallas. She's gotten, donations from like the Columbus Blue Jackets. The NHL sent out stuff, sent out tweets. I had never really recognized what she had meant nationally to the entire league.
Yeah, and I just wish she knew, because I think she would be blown away by this, and I can't tell you how many, other teams' PR departments and coaches and players have reached out to me, because the one thing in this, and I've said this before to, I think, Dan and MPA, but so, but I do think in the shrinking media world that we're in now, it's almost more and more rare that visiting writers go on the road.
Yeah.
It's usually just the teams covering themselves and their social media team and their cameras, and maybe one of them has, a couple of them have actual writers that go on the road for their websites, but not a lot of visiting writers. And so a lot of times after games, she would be the one that would go to the visiting locker room and gather quotes. And so she was the one that would be asking the visiting coach questions and players. And so they knew her almost more than they knew, a lot of us people that weren't affiliated with NHL.com. So, there were just a lot of people that were heartbroken. I was just out in Denver for a couple days, and Chris McFarland, the GM of the Colorado Avalanche, came up to me and just talked to me about it and how tragic it was. Corey Masisak, who writes for the Denver Post, that used to write for NHL.com, was absolutely devastated. I've gotten texts from people from USA Hockey. You forget how many hats she wore over the years, and got her start really with USA Hockey as an intern many eons ago. So, just a brutal thing. And I pray for the family, pray for Mike, her husband, and she was just a really, really good friend and had this way of sort of, brightening your day. And a lot of times I'm the one that needs to have my day brightened a lot. So she was great at that.
All right, not easy to segue away from that to stuff that doesn't mean as much, but the Wild do win against Columbus 5-2 last night. Michael, I I just felt like last night, and I know the competition's a little bit different, but I just felt like they just played a different style last night, a little bit more jam, a little bit more physicality, a little bit more intensity. Is that a product of, well, we got the Quinn Hughes reunion and 3 players on Vancouver used to play in Minnesota, and we know that we got to prove to the other team that we like who we have, or are they in the process of ramping up for the playoffs? Combination of both? How did you view it?
Yeah, I think it was more the latter. I just think that they haven't been happy with the way that they played really the last 3 weeks. And, they came out of the Olympics pretty good, had a huge win in Vegas, played well in Colorado. And they played well coming out of the Olympics. And then they just hit a rut, especially against teams that were non-playoff teams. And obviously Vancouver is the worst team in the NHL and lost it last night with the loss as securing the 32nd pick and the best odds in the lottery coming up. And I just think the Wild just were trying to play with a mindset that was more like their identity. Now, again, they've got to continue it. But last night looked much more like themselves. They controlled a lot of the game, even, look, the 4-on-4, the goal against and the power play goal against, I think the Wild felt that Liam Ogren dived. Either way, it was not a good penalty for Eric Sinek to take 200 feet in front of his net, and they paid for it, right? Hartman loses his guy on the 4-on-4, and then the power play goal. And by the way, the Vancouver power play is one of the best in the NHL for the last, several weeks. In fact, the best, in terms of,
without Quinn Hughes, who would have thought?
And all that stuff. What's that?
Without Quinn Hughes, who would have thought?
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. All they needed was to get rid of their, Civ or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it just felt to me like they just looked more like themselves. And, the other thing is I think the 4 days off really helped them. They needed rest, and they definitely needed work on the ice, and really nobody more than Quinn Hughes and Matt Boldy and Kirill Kaprizov and Faber. And those were the 4 best players in my eyes last night. Those guys have played a ton of hockey. They've been in a rut, especially Boldy. Quinn has been sort of bleeding chances. And I think that Quinn and Faber were reunited last night, played really, really well. Quinn was a +4, looked more like himself, and Boldy just had played with that pop that we came to expect the first half of the season. And he just looked like he was sort of back. And I just think he's been tired. I mean, these guys have been running. It's not just the amount of games they've played. It's they go to the Olympics, they go the distance in the Olympics. Then they are running around, to Miami and Washington, and Quinn's going back and forth to New York twice for Saturday Night Live and the Fallon show, and they've got all these obligations off the ice. And I just think that they just sort of needed even more than a physical reset, a mental reset. And I think those 4 days really came at a perfect time for the Wild, and very abnormal in this type of condensed season to have 4 days off at this time of year. And it really could set them up well here, coming down the stretch, playing the final 7 games before the playoffs, especially against the Dallas team that has also played obviously a ton of hockey, but doesn't have that break, and is starting to get really ratcheted with injuries.
So I was going to ask you then, with 7 games remaining, because this is a team that really hasn't found their game over the last month and change. But obviously, as you said, rest is very important, and you got some performances out of some guys last night that needed that rest. If you're John Hines, how do you balance the last 7 games between making sure guys maybe get a rest if possible, but also trying to find your game for the playoffs?
Yeah, I asked John that after the game, and the one thing I will say, and I said this to PA yesterday too, or maybe Barrero, is that I do think that because we're in our little bubble here, that a lot of fans don't look at obviously Colorado and Dallas, and all 3 teams have really been very choppy since the Olympics. I just think it's hard for these teams to get up knowing that they're pretty much locked and loaded where they are in the standings. Dallas has not been very good at all lately, and last night they looked much more like themselves, especially Jake Oettinger in that shutout. So that's one. But in terms of what your question is, I asked Hines that, and what Hines basically said after the game is that they're going to get through the weekend. They have a plan. But it sounds to me like he wants to play his pretty much his lineup these next 2 games in Ottawa and Detroit, and continue to build their game to prove that last night wasn't a one-off. So play, more their lineup and continue to try to build. And then next week, as they get home against Seattle and they have sort of 5 games left, is then start to really come up and maybe give guys rest, throw in a Nico Sturm every now and then, throw in a Robbie Fabry, play a Damon Hunt and a Jeff Petrie, and start giving guys rest. The one game I would do, the one balance that I'm going to be really interested in is the game in Dallas to start the 3-game road trip. Because you're playing against the team that you want to play, that you're going to play in the playoffs. But do you really have to play your full team to try to get some sort of confidence going into that series, or is it more prudent to make sure that guys like Matt Boldy and Quinn Hughes and Kirill Kaprizov and these guys don't play? Because could you imagine?
Take
what
liberties
would
with
the
them.
incentive would be for a Dallas Stars team to try to hurt those guys?
Yep.
So. And it could be vice versa too. Like if I'm Dallas, do you really want Michael McCarron and Marcus Foligno and these guys, hitting Jason Robertson and Rupe, if Rupe's back and all those guys, so like Wyatt Johnston. So I'll be interested if that's more like a preseason lineup. We've seen it before where the Wild will actually call up guys from the minors for these type of games. Yeah. Remember the game in Nashville a couple of years ago, like Damon Giroux made his NHL debut and, they've done this stuff before and it wouldn't shock me if the Wild, do those type of maneuvers.
Well, it would be interesting if they were actually maybe in a position to catch Dallas at that point. Then would that change your mind, right? Like right now, it doesn't seem like they're going to catch Dallas, but all of a sudden you win 2 this weekend and you have a game in hand, and that game could be very interesting. How much does home ice mean?
Yeah, I think it means something, especially in this series where the Wild just, historically, since I've covered the team, this and before. Dallas is one of the toughest buildings that this organization's ever played in. They just don't win there a lot. So, maybe that would be something worth doing. The problem is that the regulation wins tiebreaker, the Wild are not. There's no way it's already locked that Dallas is going to win that. So, even though they're only 6 points back of Dallas and have a game in hand, you're basically got to get 4 wins to their, 1 or 2 to be able to even pass them. So it's almost mathematically impossible. Yeah. Especially from the tiebreaker standpoint. So, my guess is that by the time that happens, it's going to be pretty difficult to they've got 3 games before that game. So we'll talk a little next week and see how it works. But my guess is that at that point, it was probably a smarter thing to try to, make sure that you don't get guys hurt that game.
We're talking with Michael Russo of The Athletic. The Wild have 2 games this weekend in Ottawa and Detroit, Saturday and Sunday, both games at noon. You can hear both of them right here on the Fan. You mentioned that the Wild maybe want to play more of their playoff type lineup this weekend, and I'm curious, what is that lineup? Because especially at the forward position, they have multiple guys that are deserving to be in the lineup, and it almost seems like a good player's going to be sitting up in the press box. So, and they've been kind of rotating guys in and out here over the last couple of games. What do you feel like is going to be that final lineup, especially at the forward position, maybe in your bottom 6?
Yeah, my guess is with back-to-back games, we might see Urov play one game, and we might see Nick Foligno play another. Nick probably, maybe even in Ottawa, because Nick, obviously is sort of from, he's from Ontario, not sort of. And I do think they have a bunch of family coming to that game, so we'll see. I think that last night's lineup is probably the opening night lineup for the playoffs if they're healthy, and one big reason why I think that is because Tarasenko, Urov, and Bobby Brink last night, I thought they did everything in that game but score. I thought they were outstanding. Bobby Brink was, creating plays left and right. Would have had a couple of assists if Tarasenko and Urov weren't robbed. So I just think that it makes sense to start with Urov and have Nick Foligno in the press box to start game 1. But the way it works in the playoffs. The second you lose a game and now everybody starts looking at lineup changes and things like that. And if they felt like maybe the game they lost, they weren't heavy enough or didn't kill the penalties that they felt like they should have killed, then it's easy to throw Nick Foligno into the lineup. And I do think that Nick came here with the reality that he might not be an everyday player and might not be an everyday player in the playoffs. Obviously, he wants to be. But, to me, if it were me, I'd start with Urov, there and then go from there.
At least I think we know both games this weekend, you're going to be getting playoff type effort out of the other team because Ottawa right now currently sitting in the last spot in the Eastern Conference, but Detroit's tied with them both in points and games played. Yeah, Columbus that's tied with points, but a game back. I know Philadelphia had been making a run, but they've lost 2 now. But they're 2 points back. There's even Washington's 3 points back. And both in the East and the West, that's pretty jumbled up. How do you see? We can talk specifically about the East first, since Ottawa and Detroit are their opponents this weekend. But how do you see the West playing out with that final playoff spot as well?
Two extremely desperate teams, as you mentioned, and the Wild better be ready for those games because they're going to be physical and they're going to be fast, and they're going to be facing desperate opponents. And the Wild don't play well usually in Ottawa, and Detroit's usually there's some wild games. Remember that comeback that they had last year after the Four Nations there. So I think these are going to be really good games to get the Wild tuned up for the playoffs, which also could be another reason why John Hines wants to, sort of start with his plan of maybe resting guys next week. So I think it's going to be outstanding. And then in the Western Conference, it's been back and forth. I mean, Nashville last night, they won in a long shootout. I think 9 rounds. The first 14 or 15 shooters in that game didn't even score. But they blew a huge lead to get there and basically gave LA a point that they couldn't afford. Winnipeg's still hanging around. Seattle, who's the Wild's next home game, is still technically hanging around and has a game in hand on the 3 teams right in front of them. And then San Jose, as well as they've played lately, and they've won 4 in a row, the Sharks, are still basically tied in points with Nashville and LA. So these are going to be huge games down the stretch in both conferences, and it's frankly why they have this loser point and all that stuff. I mean, it's what keeps Gary Bettman sticking with this playoff format and this standings format is the fact that unlike a lot of sports coming down the stretch, these teams all really still have a chance to make the playoffs, and it keeps fans interested and all that type of stuff.
All right, final question for you, Michael. What do you think is going to be the philosophy regarding the goaltenders as we move into the playoffs? The good thing with the season so far is they've gotten good, solid goaltending from both of them. Clearly, it looks like they lean Gustafsson, and I would imagine he's game 1. But is Gus getting a little bit quicker hooked than maybe most teams would have because of Wallstedt, or do you think they want to ride Gus as long as they can in the playoffs?
I think they would love to ride Gus and not mess around with their goaltending like they've done a couple times in the past. Obviously, you remember the year that Cam Talbot was on fire down the stretch. I think he had points in 13 straight games, and they just started flurry come playoff time. And then the one year they played Dallas where Gus had like the 50-save win in double overtime on the Ryan Hartman goal. And then next game 2, inexplicably, Marc-Andre Fleury started. And so, look, the one thing I don't think that we'll see is strict rotation like we saw earlier in the season when the Wild were playing really, really well. In fact, I asked Wallace that yesterday morning, and he even admitted that would be very hard to do in the playoffs. If you get a shutout or a huge win by Gustafsson, it just makes no sense to change the goaltender the next night, even though there have been teams that have done that in the past and it's worked. So my guess is that, it's Gus is going to get a little bit of a runway. Obviously, if he struggles, you make a change. But the one thing I'll just say about Gus is, if you look at his playoff numbers with the Wild in his postseasons, he's been really good. And, the 1 year against Dallas, the one issue he had was on the PK, but I don't think that was all his fault. But they gave up 9 goals that series. And, so I just think that they're going to go with Gus. And then, obviously, as always, when, you always have to react to losses in playoff series. And, I'm not saying that we're not going to see Wallstedt, but I think that they're going to give Gus a little runway.
Thanks for your time, Michael. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yep. See you, Brandon. Take care.
Michael Russo covers the Minnesota Wild for The Athletic. We've been keeping you updated on the power outage at Target Field. The power is back. XL Energy comes through. But Dan Hayes is almost out for like an hour at Target Field and the surrounding neighborhoods. Dan Hayes of The Athletic says he's been told it will take 10 to 30 minutes for the Target Field scoreboard to be in working order. Plus, we have to run through the pregame ceremonies, which were scheduled to start 40 minutes before first pitch. So it still might be another hour here before they start this game.
Well, they won't need the scoreboard very much for the way that they've been playing throughout most of the season. And also, Yeah.
That was negative.
Yeah.
Well, they need the scoreboard to be in working order because it changes numbers quite a bit on the one side.
That is true.
Ours could probably stay at zeros.
Jim's next article should be, will the Polads fix their relationship with XL Energy?
Thank you, Max. Appreciate it. Love always working with you.
Love working with you.
Love working with you. Thanks to all of our guests, Pat Micheletti, Dane Moore, Michael Russo. Common will be back on Monday. Thank you so much for listening today. Have a good weekend. It's been a good day.
Listen back to any of Common Man's programs by podcasting on the iHeartRadio app or KFAN.com.